Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us once again for this Georgia Drawdown Climate Interview Series. I am really excited about today's conversation for many reasons, but mainly because of the topic we're talking about that is very near and dear to me as it is to our guests. I want to welcome Monica Thornton, who is a graduate of IGEL and a board member. And I also want to welcome Beth Blalock, who is a IGEL graduate as well as one of our former facilitators. Thank you all so much for being here. I am so excited to chat with you today about something that all three of us are very passionate about. To start off for our audience, IGEL stands for Institute for Georgia Environmental Leadership. All three of us are IGEL graduates from different years. I'd like to start off our conversation today asking you both to briefly introduce yourselves to our audience and tell us what brought you to a career focused on sustainability and or the environment.
Well, thank you, Eriqah, for having us, first of all, and it's nice to be here with Beth. I really came to this career by chance. So I'm not a scientist. I tell people I'm not an ologist. I'm an administrator. I started my career in broadcast news and ultimately, had a great opportunity with Piedmont Park Conservancy to manage its marketing and development team for about 10 years through the expansion of that park, and then went on to work for the Georgia Conservancy, where I was there as their COO for 7 or 8 years. And this opportunity came up almost 3 years ago, and it was just exciting to be back in the field. I had stepped away for a moment and really appreciate the environment that we have with leaders that have gone through this program. And so being the state director at TNC, I really am benefiting every day from the experience.
Wonderful. Beth?
Yeah, I echo Monica and just say I'm happy to be here with both of you, two of my favorite people. And I have been in this field with multiple sectors, private, nonprofit, and government. But I'm going to take a different view than Monica and tell you that I came to this pretty intentionally as a senior in high school. So shout out to teachers because they're important. I took an environmental science class as a senior. And at that point, I really didn't know anything about the environment. I didn't know anything about sustainability and really felt strongly that more people needed to know what was happening with our environment, protect the environment. And so sort of pursued a career in that, both in my undergraduate and graduate studies, and then thereafter. Feel like I've been here for a while and seen a lot of different sides of the environmental sector, and IGEL is certainly representative of that.
Absolutely. You both demonstrated exactly one of the things that I love the most about IGEL and about being a part of the IGEL family, which is the different sides of the industries that people come to this program from. The three of us have 3 different ways that we came to this, and that is one of the things that I love the most about IGEL and IGEL alumni in general is we are all different, coming from different ways, and that's what makes the program so fruitful when you're in it, but after you graduate as well. So again, all 3 of us are graduates of Institute for Georgia Environmental Leadership, or IGEL. And Beth, you were a co-facilitator of IGEL. You were one of my facilitators of IGEL in 2018, most resilient class ever. And so for those in our audience who aren't familiar with IGEL, please tell us more about the program and the history of the organization.
Yeah, Eric, I'm really glad that you said that you highlighted one of the things that you loved is the different backgrounds and bringing people together, because that's really the origin story of IGEL. IGEL was founded over 20 years ago. And we had a climate here in Georgia where there was just a lot of complex environmental issues. And we were solving those issues mostly by lawsuits and fighting.
Right.
And so there's a movement of sorts to come together and really think about, is there another way? Could we just sit down and talk to one another? We know that we don't all share the same views. We don't come from the same places. We don't work in the same industries. But perhaps if we took the time to get to know somebody as a person, think about what is important to them, think about where they're coming from on a particular issue, and start to have a respectful discourse, we might think about solutions. IGEL in and of itself is not an organization that's looking for solutions, but what we are looking for is the introduction and the invitation to have that tough conversation with somebody you might not otherwise engage with because you're entrenched in positions or your industry or just your personal affiliations that make it difficult to find those interactions with folks on the other side. So we're really trying to facilitate and invite that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned about tough conversations, Beth, because there were many, and I know our class is not unique in this. We had a lot of tough conversations that year, many of which I brought up because I'm a troublemaker, but also because there were a lot of things that we uncovered in those different trips and conversations with some of our facilitators and our guests. That really is the special part about IGEL. I think what you just highlighted is being able to bring folks from different sectors together who typically would not. I mean, I know there's folks in my class that I would not have even met, let alone have had the opportunity to speak to about some of these issues. So that really is the special part. What inspired both of you to get involved in IGEL? And how do you feel like it's impacted your lives and your careers, respectively?
I can start as somebody who self-identified as coming to the environmental sector pretty early on in my career. I knew a lot of people that had gone through IGEL. I was envious. I was sort of jealous of their experience. I thought very highly of all of them. I really wanted to figure out when it was going to be my turn to go into IGEL. As you know, it can be a competitive process to get in. So I was really excited about entering into the program. And in terms of how it impacted me, well, you already mentioned that I became a facilitator after I went through as a participant. So it impacted me pretty profoundly, such that I wanted to stay involved and keep facilitating for IGEL. And it brought me just such joy to interact with people who were curious and excited about addressing complex problems, willing to get uncomfortable, as you mentioned, Eriqah, in many conversations. I think most of us really don't want to put ourselves in positions where we're getting uncomfortable and having tough conversations, and it's so necessary to grow and have any sort of breakthrough. So I loved being a part of that again and again as a facilitator. So it really did have a big impact on my life.
I, like Beth, I knew people that had gone through, and I could just tell something different about them in meetings or in situations when you're talking that made me very curious about what is it that's happening in the inside of the experience that they're having, where they come out differently and you can have a different conversation. And so I wanted to do it and had the opportunity to do it in my organization. And so I took it and was just grateful to go through it and see it. And it really has profoundly changed me as a leader. I stop and pause and ask myself about the other person's lens and think about how we can create win-wins, how we can remove barriers. I know how to have those tough conversations. It makes me look around the room too and see who's missing, who should be a part of this conversation, and leaving space to bring in those voices that we need to hear from. So I know I'm a better leader because I had the experience.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with both of you, especially what you said, Monica, about knowing that I'm a better leader. I had been in Georgia, or I had been doing the work in Georgia for 10 years before I went to IGEL. And I certainly know I'm a better leader in Georgia and a part of this ecosystem of folks that are doing climate and environmental work in Georgia because of IGEL. Absolutely. And the times we spent together. I think it's so interesting to think about the ways in which our careers would have been different had we not been a part of IGEL and the people we got connected to because of it. I certainly don't think I would know half as much about the water wars in Georgia, agriculture in Georgia, or the Beltline, for example, just to name some of the things that we talk about in some of those sessions without IGEL, and wouldn't have, my interest would not have sparked to learn more about them even beyond. So I certainly share you all's affinity for, how it changed your lives and your career. So we've talked a lot and raved a lot about why we love IGEL. I would love to hear, especially from you, Monica, as a board member now, having been the class right before me, but now a board member, why should someone, other than all the great things we've said, why should someone participate in IGEL program?
Let me also say, yes, I'm from 20 17, best class ever, because it was Beth's first class that she actually facilitated. Very grateful for Beth and for that experience. I sit on the board of IGEL, and it's one of the great honors in my professional career to do this. Each year, the process is very competitive. There are people who have applied several times before they get the opportunity to be a part of IGEL. I think that that's great, and we shouldn't change our standards, that people who want to lead really should be able to demonstrate the why. And so to kind of tell people who are watching, yes, you should apply, and you should apply again. You should keep applying until you get in. It's worth it. We choose about 30 to 34 candidates each year. We went from 5 sessions and maybe 4 sessions now that are about 3 days. And that's over the course of the better part of a year to do that. And so it is a large investment of time. That time gives you real deep experience with the people that you are in the cohort with. You have deep relationships that these people become friends, in some cases family, because of the experience that we have together. And it's a deep experience where you dig into these issues, but you also deal with those things that keep us from being able to have honest conversations. You get into understanding why we make decisions, how we come to making those decisions, and the challenges that we all have and what we all bring to the table, the unique viewpoints that we have. And you have an opportunity to really hash that out and sometimes argue about it, sometimes cry about it. But at the end of the day, I think that you have a great respect, not only for the challenges that we have as a state, but you have a great respect for the different perspectives that must be considered in finding solutions for those challenges. So I would encourage people, and it doesn't matter, by the way, where you are in your career. If you're starting your career as a leader, you will have a place in IGEL. If you are at the end of your career, you will have a place in IGEL. And so I think in everyone in between, that it's important that not only is there diversity of where people sit in the state, there's diversity in terms of, as we've all said, the jobs, where they come from, but there also is that diversity of age that people may not expect. And you get that wisdom, right, from people who have been doing this for a long time, and you get those fresh eyes from people who are just starting. And that also, I think, is the secret sauce to making it such a rich experience.
Absolutely. Monica, can you tell our audience kind of generally the timeline? I generally remember, but it would be good for people to know when they should expect the application to open, for example, generally, and when
I want to say it's in the fall. Applications open in the fall. Beth, you probably know this better than I do, actually, on that.
Typically around August, and then running through October. And then decisions come out somewhere in the November to December range, but the application process typically opens late summer. So if people are interested, they should be on the lookout. They can obviously get in touch with IGEL website and sign up to be contacted by that as well. And then if they know anybody who's in the program, just tell them to give us their information, and we'll be sure that an application finds them.
Recommendation are really considered and could weigh a lot in the process.
Absolutely. And not only letters of recommendation in general, but from former IGEL graduates. I certainly had 1 or 2 of my own in my application and did apply a few times. So reiterating to folks to please keep applying. I know someone who applied 4 times before they got in.
I think part of that is when you're answering those questions, really dig deep, take it serious. It is a unique, special opportunity. And I think those who are looking at those applications are looking for people who really are going to participate and be a part of that. And I think that comes through in your application, even how much you want to learn and how much you're willing to give to have that experience. So I would say take it seriously and really do a thorough job of completing the application.
Absolutely. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I also feel like what I've been told before is the makeup of the class. Like, it's definitely not always, you didn't do what Monica just said, which I think is very important, is digging deeply and asking those questions honestly. But sometimes they're trying to make up the class, and they're seeing the ways in which folks will fit together in a puzzle. How many of folks do we have from this sector or that sector? And so trying to make up the class as well can have some, correct me if I'm wrong, y'all, but can have some sort of heftiness on how it ends up looking, where some folks just have to come back and apply again.
I think that's perfectly said. And Beth, I'm sure you probably want to weigh in on that too. But I think that there is, those who have been putting this together over, a period of time. I know there's been great effort to go to making it as diverse as I said, in all those diverse ways that I mentioned. It takes some time. And so but I will tell you that no matter when you get in, it's the right time. It's going to be the right time for you.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
No, well, everything you said, I echo and just underscore that, going back to, again, the beginning, the purpose really is to challenge your viewpoint. And the way we challenge your viewpoint is to bring you with people who don't think like you. So to what you all said, the intentionality of making sure that we have a good cross section, that there's not all consultants or all lawyers or all nonprofits or all government. We want everybody to come into that tent.
Right. And the way in which the program has been set up, also, I remember afterwards participating in feedback sessions. I think the way in which the program continues to be set up, which is really special, is asking alumni, how your experience was. So it changes all the time, the short, less visits this time, it changes all the time based on some of that feedback, based on, many different factors, but it's always changing, always growing. Every class has a different experience. And part of that is because the way in which it's been designed to evolve with the needs for the state and the needs for who is participating.
Yeah, and Eriqah, you said something really important that I just want to make sure we don't forget. This is a peer-to-peer learning program, which is really unique. It's not somebody in the front of the room telling people how to think or what to learn. It's peers really challenging one another. That's what makes the program so unique from year to year too. Of course, we look at the substance and what we're covering, but as Monica said, every year, the year that you get in is the right year. It is just a very unique experience to be in a cohort, as Monica mentioned, with people who are challenging you, but they're also there with you for almost a year.
Absolutely. We've mentioned some lessons already, but I'd love to hear from you all if you have some specific ones you wanted to highlight. What was the most valuable lesson you learned in IGEL and why?
Well, I think that I really learned about myself, which I think is very important. I think that's kind of the number one goal, is to learn more about yourself and have that time with yourself. So learning how to stay true to myself and understanding my values while also respecting where other people are coming from and respecting their experiences. I think that is, if I could boil IGEL down in a nutshell from where I sit, that's what it is: learning about yourself, learning about others, and respecting others and their diverse opinions.
I totally agree with that. It was learning about myself. I'll tell you a really quick story. Rob Williams, you do the personality profile, and I wasn't happy with mine because it said I was mischievous. And I challenged him. I was like, I am not. I'm a rule follower, and I do things, and Rob said, and I remember the exact moment when I realized that I was mischievous. He saw me realizing it, and we both had a big laugh about it. But I learned so much about me. And I learned how to listen to other people and have empathy and to think about where they're coming from and their why. And that was really important.
I think you're good in good company. I'm almost positive I got mischief on mine. I remember thinking that personality test is grueling. And I remember thinking, I don't even know if I'm asking these questions correctly. What is the correct answer?
Right.
You asked me the same question like 6 times in different ways. I remember you mentioned that, Monica. I just got triggered. But yes, I think I really appreciate what you all said. And I'll say, just for my own 2 cents quickly, judging a book by its cover, there are some folks in my class that I did not think that I would have anything in common with and did not think that I would agree with on anything. And at the end of it, we were like, oh yeah, I mean, that's, walks of life, backgrounds that I just did not think that I would agree with in any way. And I kind of pinpointed from the beginning and ended up agreeing with far more than I originally thought. So that was a big lesson for me, kind of similar to what you all already mentioned. I really appreciate this conversation with you all. And I'm so glad that we got to highlight IGEL on this climate series. I appreciate you all being here. This is my favorite question. It's the last question I have for our guests. What is giving you hope around climate in Georgia?
I'm going to stick with the theme about sort of diversity of work and opinions. My hope came from a speaker that we had at IGEL one year. It may have been somebody who was involved in Drawdown, Georgia, actually. And he talked about the work of Drawdown, which is really a lot of diverse solutions. It's not all about energy. It's not all about transportation. There's a lot of solutions in a lot of different sectors. And what he said was everyone can have their own North Star. Your North Star might be something about agriculture or planting more trees or conserving more land, and that helps climate. Your North Star might be, let's get more solar, and that's helping climate. And just all the different ways that people can be working towards their North Star that folds up under the greater initiative to combat climate change. I thought that was just really powerful. And that gives me hope that we have such a diverse group of IGELs, alums in this network, and they're all working on lots of different climate solutions. And even outside of the IGEL network, not to exclude anybody, there's a lot of good work going on.
I think for me, what gives me hope and why I'm hopeful right now is that we're not having the conversation anymore about whether or not climate change or the extreme weather is something that's real or here to stay. And we're concentrating on what do we do about it. We've actually made that leap, and we can say some things that many of us in our own nonprofit spaces couldn't really say in Georgia. I'm very hopeful that people are coming to the table, some that you would not expect to come to the table. We're having conversations about solutions, and that gives me a lot of hope.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you all completely. And I'll just say that having IGEL in the state of Georgia, such a unique program. I'm sure there are other states that have similar things, but it's so unique to Georgia. Certainly continues to give me hope. And I appreciate both of you for being here to talk about not only your hopefulness, but your dedication to this great program. And I hope that our audience will consider applying for IGEL, supporting IGEL, which is really important, and supporting anyone who's been a part of the program, who is either working with you both internally in your organizations or externally that you meet, because it really is a special place. So thank you both. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Beth, so much for coming.
Thank you, Eriqah.
Nice to see you, Beth.
Thank you all so much for coming to talk to me about IGEL. It was something that I really championed of wanting to speak about on this series, and I'm glad to have you all here. And I'm glad to be in the IGEL family with both of you. So thanks so much, everybody, for watching today, and we will see you next time. Thank you both.